Today we're going to build Inquisitor Coteaz. I finally got my hands on him. Yes! Anyway, this is Robert with Society Case Files. I'm coming at you with a brand new build video. If you like this content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and drop a like, and I'll do more of this kind of thing. We're going to start with throwing them together here. I will be just talking a little bit basically about what I did. This character was not very difficult, and there's nothing that I really need to point out that might be a gotcha, even if you're new to building. Dry fitting him was super easy. Everything made perfect sense. The total build time was about 25 minutes. I'm speeding this up so it takes a little less than 9. But all around, he's a pretty cool model. And if you watched my Imperial Agents video, then you know that this was the character that I did not have the opportunity to get because he was part of the Ordo Malleus box, and I already had everything in it except for him. So finally, one day I was just browsing eBay for some other things, and lo and behold, there he was for only $49. And I grabbed him. So he came in short order, and when he arrived, I've got to be honest, they did a great job because he was basically just one sprue, but he has 2 bases, which you can see behind my glue there. One for him, one for his bird companion, and they just basically wrapped it in a piece of foam and then put it in a decent box and then boxed that. So came in perfect condition. There was no problem with it whatsoever, and I jumped on him right away. I built him the very next day. I was a little busy when he arrived. Otherwise, I would have done it immediately. He was one of 3 things that I picked up. And I've got a video for one of those 2 things, and I'll talk about it when I prepare that one. But it was considerably longer. It took over an hour and a half to build that particular item. But as far as he's concerned, you could see that so far it's been real simple. All of his parts are kind of decorative. He doesn't have any options. It's just him, the way he is. No weapon choices, no pose choices. I have another video I'm going to do of a Space Marine Lieutenant where you actually had some choices to make. And I just have to prep that one. It's a lot like my Carlina video that I uploaded. In fact, that was going to be a 2 model video, but it was just so freaking long I didn't want to put people through that. So anyway, so we've already got his head on. We're going to put his little belt part on. That was probably the biggest challenge of the build, was this belt, just figuring out specifically how it was going to go, because it didn't quite fit the way I wanted it to the first couple dry fits. But once I got past that, it's all a breeze. The way that we see here, the hand is very small. It's kind of silly that they made it that way, since there's not any other options. You had to glue that tiny piece of hand onto the arm, but whatever. Anyway, so you got to put his gun on his hip, and it's got a little guide, so that was no big deal. You just slap it on there, and it stayed very well. And that's actually the best part of this character, is that everything was just so easy. It just clicked together very quickly without any problem. So at this point, I wanted to make sure that I got the last little bits on. We had to do a shoulder piece. We've got just some random little tiny things. And that one in particular that I was just handling is kind of funny. It's his belt pack. It's his little sigil, his Inquisitor sigil that goes over his personal business, I guess. And then we've got this shoulder piece that also covers up the hole right behind his neck. So you could see that there was a little tiny gap where his cape met his back, and this thing covers that up when you get it on there right, and gives him his cool shoulder pad. And he's already got his arm, so we're good there. And he has a piece of terrain that he sits on, which actually makes it a little bit easier to make sure that he gets on his base properly. And the hammer will provide a little bit more structural integrity here. So you're going to basically put his hand on there. But Well, they sort of show the instructions that it goes on, quote unquote, simultaneously. I'm using that term just because that's how I kind of thought it would go. It's actually easier to do what I'm doing there, which is to put him on that base and it'll fall off. Yep, it fell off. So once I did that, I was like, I'm going to let that dry for a minute and I'm going to go to the bird. So the bird itself is very, very simple. There's basically 3 parts to him and then his terrain that he connects to. When I saw the pictures, I was concerned about how he was going to connect to that terrain because it seemed pretty tenuous. It turns out he's got a fair amount of connectivity to it. So we'll get to that in just a moment. I dry fit the heads. I didn't really like how they worked at first, but it's not too terrible. I kind of feel like they needed to make that, I don't know, make them all one piece. It would have just been a little easier to construct it, in my opinion. But, if there's no like choices there, making those 2 tiny spindly pieces like that just seemed unnecessary. But as you can see, it wasn't really that big of a deal. Got it going there. And then we got the bird. I'm going to put him aside so I can finish Coteaz himself. You see that the hammer touches down. It has an actual indentation point where I just glued, and then on his hand. The indentation point on the terrain makes it easier to line up exactly where it goes. And then you get it in there. And then I triple checked where it was going to go. But there he is. He's done. Put him on his base, set him aside. We'll work on the bird. And the bird does have this guide that you could see where it's going to connect to. So it's pretty obvious. And it's got enough space on it that it's going to work. But when I first put it on, as you could see, it fell right off. And then I got it to stick. When I got it to stick after dropping it on the floor there, I had to clean it off. I'm leaving that in because I drop things all the time. So it's kind of funny to see that. But anyway, at this point, I held it in place just long enough. And then I basically used my finger there to give it some balance in case it wanted to fall off again. And just waited on it. And then I put him on my clamp, which I talked about in my Carlina video. And then we're going to put him on his base. Just basically glue him down and call him good to go. So there's Coteaz, totally done. And then I put the bird aside and just give it a minute, just to wait and make sure that it is sufficiently dry, not only on the bird itself, but the part that I'm about to put on. Dry fitting the heads was no big deal. I just had to clean it up a tiny bit there. And then I was able to get him in place like so. And then glue him on. But I still felt like he needed to be on that clamp because I didn't want to set it down in case it was still a little weak. And here we go. Put it on. That was a very easy part. And you can see it was actually pretty structurally sound. So I'm going to put them on his base. And that's it. They're done. And here they are, the final models on my little terrible display that I'm not super fond of, but it works for the sake of what we're doing today. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll drop a like, subscribe, and if you've got any thoughts, drop them in the comments. If you want to see a different model built or you got some ideas on how we can do this kind of stuff better, let me know. Anyway, thanks again. Look forward to seeing you next time.